Now, the one thing that's driven Gerry Harvey his entire life of almost 85 years is optimism and also curiosity. No chat with Gerry goes without a secondary inquiry about a host of different issues. It's not that Gerry is without his critics. There are plenty of them because Harvey Norman is, in many ways, run like a private company. In his latest half year, things were tougher for Harvey Norman. Sales and profits were down. The cost of living crisis, Gerry says, is real. But, as you'll hear, Gerry thinks the boom in artificial intelligence is as significant a change for the world as the mobile phone was, and why his land bank, criticised by many investors over the years, is now a goldmine for him and his shareholders.
Well, we had a difficult time in July, August, September and October, and I'm looking at that and thinking this isn't good. And then November, December was a lot better. And January's been okay. And we think February, March is going to be difficult, but we think April, May, June is going to be okay. And then we're looking at next year and saying, what's going to happen next year? At this stage, I'm looking at that and thinking maybe next year will be a lot better. Don't know. But we've got a lot of new product coming out. AI is coming into prominence, how big that's going to be, and what influence that will have on a retailer like Harvey Norman next year. So from my point of view, I'm looking at it and thinking, maybe this is the most exciting period that could happen in my lifetime. What's going to happen over the next year or two? Maybe it'll fizzle out and I'm not right. Maybe because you've got this huge emergence of tech companies and they're like one going up 300 billion nearly in a day.
That's NVIDIA, right? Yeah. The chip maker.
So things like that, and you think, is something going to change here that's going to change all of our lives, the way we live and operate, to such a level that we never anticipated? And if that happens over the next 1, 2, 3 years, you think, wow, it's like the mobile phone. You can't believe, like we didn't have a mobile phone. No. Then you had a brick. And now you've got a mobile phone you live on all day, every day. And so that was a huge change in our lives and the way we lived. Is there a change coming now that's even bigger than that? And if that's the case, how does that affect someone like Harvey Norman or other retailers or health or anything you can think of? And so we might be coming into one of the most exciting periods in the history of mankind.
All right, I want to ask you about something. The supermarkets have got themselves into an enormous flap in these past couple of weeks. Yeah. Brad Banducci's gone from Woolworths. Yeah. They've got an inquiry coming up from the government about into supermarket pricing. Yeah. Is really the supermarkets gouging consumers? I mean, you understand pricing and the way in which it works.
This is mostly political, and it also appeals to the consumers out there that say, yeah, I'm paying twice as much as I should. But when it comes out the supermarket makes 3 cents in the dollar, you say, how can it lower its price? I mean, what are you going on about? Look, the fact is it makes 3 cents in the dollar. Do you want it to make 1 cent or no cent?
Could Harvey Norman survive on 3 cents in the dollar?
Yeah, sure.
You could?
Yeah, of course we can, but you survive a lot better on 4 or 5 cents in the dollar, and you don't survive on no cents in the dollar. So we all work on a very low margin. So for someone to come along and say you're gouging and you're robbing consumers and all that, hang on a second, look at the results. And so then you've got to say, well, why are people going on? Well, it's politics, makes good politics. If I'm the government at the time, I've got to tell people it's not my fault. I didn't cause inflation. It's those bloody supermarkets out there, right? But then when you look at the result, you say, well, that's pretty hard to justify. Now I'll spend a fortune investigating them and having a royal commission into supermarkets, and now you're going to spend a lot more money and waste it.
So, all right, because your business survives on being able to buy at the right price, get it in front of the consumer at the right price, and then enticing enough consumers into your stores to buy that gear at the margin.
Sure. And now we've got shops out there that make very good profits, but we've got shops out there that lose money. But mainly, maybe they're in the wrong position or they're not big enough or something, but they're difficult and you can't make money. Yeah. Then you've got others that do make money.
Do you have to close some of those that are not making money?
At the moment we're closing a couple of shops, but we're opening some too. So that happens all the time. That's just the evolution of retailing. And so you say, that site doesn't work anymore. And doesn't matter what I do, I can't make any money there. So I have to close it. But then you might have a lease and it's got another 5 years to go. And you say, do I close it now? It's difficult. I mean, we struck this problem in Ireland in the GFC in 2010. Our sales in Ireland dropped 20, 30, 40% overnight. We lost $50 million in that year. The next year we lost another 50. Then we lost another 100. We lost 200 million because our sales went like that. We stayed there and today we're profitable and clawing it all back. But that didn't happen in 2010 in any of the other countries we operated in. Australia and New Zealand, we were kissed by a fairy, right?
So I just want to go back to one little thing, though. This cost of living crisis, now you mentioned it there as well. Is it real or is it not real?
No, it's real. So the situation is you've got utilities that are never going to go down in price. They just keep going up, right? You've got power, just keeps going up. You've got rent. You've got
insurance, another one. That's a big one, insurance.
A real big one. We've got land, for instance, that could be worth a lot more. We've got a very big land bank. It's in the books at about $4 billion, but it's closer to $5 billion. And we've got a lot of those sites that will become zoned differently. We've got a lot of uplift in that property sector. Doesn't show up yet, but it will in the future. Close to transport hubs and that sort of thing. So people look at our real estate and they say, wonder if it's worth the money. Let me tell you, it's gold. If I want to build a shop anywhere in Australia, in any capital city, it's nearly impossible now. The land costs too much, the building costs too much, right? And I can't make it work. So anywhere that you've got now, if you're in a situation where you've got property that you occupy, it is solid gold. There is not a chance in hell it's going to go down in price, and it's just a matter of how much it's going to go up in price. So people are now looking at our real estate portfolio and saying, hang on a second, these blokes have got $5 billion worth probably at least in real estate, just solid, hard asset. And have they got any debt on it? Practically nothing, right? That's a very strong position to be in.
All right, I just want to ask you one final one, and that is that these results look a bit soft in terms of that consumer demand.
Yep.
But your competitors, say JB Hi-Fi, make one example, or even if I go to Nick Scali Furniture, they seem to be a little bit more robust. What's the difference between those three businesses?
Well, we're all a different retailer. I mean, we don't compete with JB Hi-Fi. Maybe, they've got computers and TV, which makes up a smaller percentage of our business. So we compete with them, sure, but they haven't got furniture, they haven't got bedding, they have, bathrooms, carpets, lots of different things
Do I put the good guys that they own in different camp?
Good guys are different, and we compete with maybe 40%. The other 60% we don't compete with. So there's no direct comparison. It'd be like trying to compare us to Bunnings or Woolworths or Coles. So there are some retailers in Australia that are going very strong at the moment, but there are a lot in the middle to lower bracket. They're going very badly because they come to us sometimes and say, would you buy us? And I look at them and I say, I can't buy you. I know you've got a nice little business, but you make no money. The cost of doing business for retail at the moment's gone through the roof. And these smaller retailers haven't got some of the advantages the bigger ones have got, and they're closing.
I'll jump in there and just say, so on that basis, were you a bit sad to see Godfrey's go into administration?
They were always going to go. So Godfrey's was offered to me for $80 million 10 years ago when it was being run by a guy that used to work for me. And I said, mate, I don't want it. It hasn't got a long-term future. And then the guy that started it was 99 and he bought it and then died when he turned 100. And so, but why he bought it, who knows. But it was never going to win. And so it's a model that was dead.
So there's a whole bunch of other retailers like that, you
Sure, there's a heap of them out there at the moment, and they're under extreme pressure at the moment. So you've got all these centres at the moment, let's call them bulky goods centres, as opposed to shopping centres, and they're quite different. So a shopping centre is out there with a very high rent, very high outgoings, and then the bulky goods centres were valued less because the rents were lower, the outgoings were lower. Now everyone's figured, we miss we misread that. They're actually, in a way, more valuable than the shopping centre. So the shopping centre used to sell at a yield of 4 or 5 and the others at 7 or 8. Now it's gone like this a bit, or about that. And so it's interesting looking at it and saying those bulky goods centres that we own, and we're the largest bulky goods centre owner in the country, they are gold, solid gold. And it's just coming into the heads of analysts and that out there. Hang on a second. It's only 5 years ago that people were looking at our property and saying it's overvalued, it's stupid. These guys, they were all mad. They were all 100% cuckoo. And so now they're looking at it and saying, I got that wrong. These people have got something that is so valuable that I have to relook at it.
Gerry Harvey, always good to chat to you. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you.